Spiritual bypassing. You're probably familiar with it. Maybe you've done it. I certainly have. Where you use a spiritual concept or idea to overlook, maybe unconsciously you don't even see it, some type of emotional pain. Something that's unresolved, still held in the body, still creating loops of thought and perhaps behaviors in your life. But rather than tuning into it directly or feeling it and processing through it, there's more of a thought pattern of like, well, the world is perfect, or I'm an infinite being, or I'm creating my own reality, and it's used as a way of sort of numbing what's actually going on under the surface. So how do we not do this? And chances are, if you're watching a channel like this, you've been around the block and you're not doing it in the most extreme examples where, you're just completely denying anything about your body, anything you're feeling, because none of it's real, none of it exists, or I belong to this spiritual community that says this is what we believe and this is what we do, and we don't look at anything. Right? You're probably not there. So what can we do to catch if we're spiritual bypassing and get into the more subtle versions of it? So what I like for this is to just notice, am I having a quote-unquote spiritual sounding thought right now? And I'm now thinking about the idea. Not like you're meditating on it, but let's say you're going about your day, there's some discomfort, your mind's racing, or there's even a specific stress, like, okay, I'm stressing about money a little bit. So as you're feeling that, notice if you start thinking about any type of philosophy or concept, right? Like, well, I create my own reality, or money isn't real anyway, or whatever your version of it is. Right? Where do you go from there? So the first clue is if I'm even having a spiritual sounding thought. Now you can catch that and use that to say, okay, there is something going on here that's making me think this way. There's some underlying distress. I could use that now to turn towards that distress and use whatever is useful for me in this moment, whether that's just, relaxing a bit, letting the energy kind of move through the body, tuning into the body, what am I feeling? Maybe, depending on your time or whatever context, you do a full EFT tapping round or some somatic experiencing, whatever it might be. Or you catch yourself thinking about the situation more and more and kind of ruminating or just chewing on little pieces of different ideas. Right? So that might look like, oh, I'm really worried about what my kids are going through. Well, but everything happens for a reason and things are going to be okay. And maybe I can just hold like useful thoughts about them and, it's all going to work out in the end. But it's thinking oriented, right? It's not actually looking at the stressful feeling or doing anything to actually help the stressful feeling. You're looking for other thoughts that feel better to try to calm it down. Now, I know there are some techniques about finding a more useful thought, but even that has a level of presence and consciousness to it where you're using it as a technique. Like, okay, I'm feeling distressed when I think that. Is there another thought that's more useful? That has a presence and an agency to it versus purely like just the act of thinking. So I like this for some of the more subtle forms of spiritual type bypassing that I find in people that I work with that are, a little experienced. They're already familiar with the concept, but subtle ways that we all have our subtle ways that these things can, intrude or be creating little blind spots. So that's what I found is working for me. I would love to hear anything you're finding. There are, of course, more subtleties, more variations on this. The spiritual concepts that are so ingrained you don't even realize you are thinking them, that's a little more subtle as well. But noticing the thought patterns, noticing where you then go with those thoughts. Let me know if it helps you, if you found anything else. And if you want to get in touch, there's different ways in the description below. Hope it helps and hope to talk to you soon. Thanks.